Okie dokie. Hello, bozos. Welcome to the Money Pigs Livecast. This is episode number 58. I am one of your hosts, Twerp, along with MOBA champion John, Spinal Dash, the Blue Muzzy, and our special guest this evening from Team Wen's Para, Kusqt. Welcome, Kus. Is that how you say your name appropriately?
Kusqt.
Yeah, Kusqt.
Kusqt. Yep.
Kusqt. Beautiful. Kusqt, if you guys hang around the Reddit, he sometimes posts some reactions, thoughts, musings, if you will. I'm always a big fan of those. I think he's a very insightful player. He plays at a high level. He plays on some competitive teams, so we decided to have him on to bring some of that competitive insight tonight, because tonight we're going to spend the majority of the show talking about competitive Dawngate, because we just had our biggest tournament
See
to
you
date.
guys.
Right, Muzzy's leaving. He can't contribute at all to this discussion. We'll find a way to get Muzzy and regular plebes like myself and Muzzy into the conversation. But in the meantime, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff going on in the Dawngate. But gentlemen, you just want to say your hellos? Say hi to the people?
Hello.
Hello.
You guys
Hi.
really suck.
Should we have been like a quartet, like hello, hello, hello?
I mean, that would have been something at least. It would have been better than that.
It was all monotone. It was super boring.
Hello. All right, so we clearly are bringing the hype tonight. Something to get hype about, if you follow the Chronicles, as we continue with we were given the continuing adventures of like Fenmore and his trek around the world, and it seems he's in the town with the Abbey, right? That's the deal where Kendra was.
Are you
He's
sure?
in one of the towns. He's in a town where Kendra is right now.
Is right now.
How do you know that?
Because the Chronicle's purple, and Kendra has the vitality of purple.
Well, he's definitely in. Like, we see Fenmore like going through the town. There was a very cool cameo for GLG Thor. He's hanging out with a prostitute in the second panel, I'm assuming. That was I thought that was pretty cool. Fenmore's looking around the town. He goes into the room. He sees the hair. He can smell the purple on it, or his wolf smells the purple on it.
Smells
He
like
knows there's a
purple.
shaper around, and now he's looking to find a shaper, and he wants to.
Yeah.
He wants to find Lady. And like, was she like in the 9 or something? So this is, or did he? He tried to recruit her to the 9.
I think that he's going around trying to recruit people.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wait, he's clearly the Batman. Did you not see the panel with him standing in front of the moon and?
he's Batman. But how about that shout out to GLG Thor, huh?
I know.
You
I
guys
thought that
think
was really
about that?
cool.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, they did make him a male prostitute, but let's be real with
That was the
like
best
that.
part. Wait, what?
You can't say no, right? That glorious hair.
I know.
I
that
do-
was definitely cool.
Splendid.
I do think it's
Risk-
cool how, like, the recognition, that's like the second or third time they've done it. So it's cool that they continue
Yeah.
to do that.
It's very cool. I hope they keep that up for sure.
Yeah, this wouldn't be the first time they've given a shout out to the community and stuff like that, and it is very cool to see that kind of stuff. I really like the way Fenmore's like. I wonder. So like Fenmore summons wolves, right? Does he have like a wolf that's like his favorite that he summons often? Like, is this like his like boy wolf? Is this like do the wolves have multiple like do they have their own distinct personalities? I wonder about these things.
Yeah, they're all
Time will
ravenous though.
They are.
Usually
they're
wolves are
cool,
known
though.
for being pack animals, and if you're a pack animal, you don't have a,
Yeah, but he's
have
the
a
lone
personality
wolf.
outside the pack.
Yeah, he's the alpha, right?
He's
Yeah,
the alpha.
he's the
I
alpha,
am
yeah.
the alpha.
Yeah.
But no, he's very cool. I like Fenmore's story. I like that he's a bad guy, but he's
Batman.
kind of, I don't know. He's a tough one. He's not really. I mean, he is a bad guy, but he's not really a bad guy. I don't know.
Well, he's
He
not
murdered
like
an
the
entire
raving,
village.
But we haven't,
Not
we know,
yet.
yeah, but
Not
we hear
yet.
that from Freya's side. That's how Freya looks at it. Like Dawngate and the way they've done the storyline, there's a lot of shades of gray in this
Yeah.
stuff. Like Nisa with
See?
the shaping, getting kicked out of her village. Like, you know what I mean? So I wonder how that actually went down. Like, was Fenmore about to be killed? And like, because you know how in the game when he gets lower health he gets stronger. Like, does something happen in the lore where like maybe Freya's village had him cornered and he was ready to get like killed, and his shaping ability went apeshit, and wolves just came around and just killed everyone while he was like half conscious. We don't know.
And he just popped stasis and went to
There you
town.
go.
I think, I mean, they hinted when Freya came to see him, when she was all naive, they were like, oh yeah, everybody saw him, no big deal, man. It was this guy, and he's like, gotta kill all of them. Like, that was the vibe that I was pulling off. So I'm pretty sure he just murdered them all to cover his trail. So I think
He is lawful evil.
He's a bad guy.
I mean, he's basically all out for himself. It's, he just wants to be all powerful, and that doesn't necessarily make you evil. It's your actions that make you evil. So we'll see why he kills you.
But doesn't Fenmore give off like the bad guy that could join the good guys kind of vibe? Like, he's the bad guy in season 1, but in season 2 a bigger bad guy shows up and he has to team up with the good guys. Like,
you know why though? It's because he's so damn good looking.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Just too dapper.
Yep.
He's got the handsome going for him.
Yeah. Anyway.
So that's what's going on. That's what's going on.
Square. His features are very square.
Well, he's angular.
Mm-hmm.
Strong
Very
chin.
fun. He definitely looks like he's had his nose punched in, too. So we know that he's been in the shit.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the lore. We finished the living lore already for the last one. When do you guys think that we'll be getting that?
I don't know.
It's kind of been in a holding pattern for a little bit here. We haven't even heard.
Yeah. Like, is it 2 weeks after? Is it a week after? Or is it just like you do the living lore and eventually you will get that before the next living lore?
I don't think they can set timelines yet. It's just like it's still in the
They probably
making.
need to do it a few more times, I bet.
Yeah.
They're playing it by ear, it seems like, with the whole 2 weeks and a weekend.
Either way, yeah, we'll see what happens in the lore in the coming weeks and days. But another thing, Waystone announced, I guess it was a few days ago, so we had the Sick Note tournament over the weekend, and Waystone continues their interaction with the community, or their open relationship with the Competitive Balance Initiative. So basically, anyone who competes in the Sick Note Invitational or the DGSL, you don't have to win or do anything other than show up and participate in it. They're gonna send you a survey, I guess. I mean, we could ask Spinal and Kusqt because they actually played. You guys got a survey for competing in the tournament, right?
Yeah, I just did the survey 20 minutes before this started. So
Yeah. Basically, what the survey, they sent out a survey to everybody, and it gave you every shaper, and it said, how do you feel about this shaper? Very weak to very strong with 5 gradients. Very weak, weak, balanced, above average, and very strong. And then they went through, what else did they ask us?
passive loadout stones as well. They went through every
Right.
single passive loadout stone, Hoplite, Ravager, etc. And
Damn.
same 5 gradients. And then they did something more, manual, write your own up. How do you feel about the balance and competitive? And I didn't really have much to say at all.
I think
from
they
that
said, like,
extent.
what are the top 3 issues? What are your top 3 issues?
Yeah, your top 3 issues with the.
What
the
did you
competitive
put? Did you
state.
put anything?
I put. I'm looking forward. It's not really a complaint. I'm just looking forward to Waystone supporting the competitive community. Once the game gets closer to release, I really hope they back it because, one thing I like about Smite and Dota in particular is, they'll release a shaper or something, and say, or a skin, and say, hey, proceeds go to X tournament, and I hope Waystone looks to do something like that to get more people interested in competitive, because prizes get more competitive players into the scene. So that's the best way to grow it.
But
is to be able to
I mean,
supplement
just
it.
what do you think about the approach? Like, Waystone has made no, like that, made no. I can't think of the words, but like they're very involved in everything the
Overtures?
community's done. They've Gasty's come on Money Pigs couple of times and talked to us about balance directly. This is another way that they're directly trying to go to the community to help them do like win their promote their game and everything like that and help make it better. And like, do you think this approach is warranted? Like, do you think it's a good approach? Do you think it's something that
I think it's awesome. I'm pretty sure every single game out there that has a competitive scene, the developers go to the competitive community, whether it be the low, the high, the mid, whatever. And we're all in the same pool right now. The community is very small. We're all in the same competitive pool. There's no differences between me or any other player. And I'm glad they're getting anybody's advice that are going to do these tournaments, which is awesome. I love it. I love it a lot.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have input. I mean, these are the people you need to be getting input from. My only concern is I want to see the competitive scene itself grow. I think right now it's tough. It's really, really tough because you have to get what? You have to get 5 people who are decent at the game, who can stand each other, who can have the mental fortitude to play, who have the time to put into practice, and then like the time to like show up and do an 8. What was the tournament? It was a relatively short one. It was like 6
was pretty
hours.
quick.
It was like 2 to 8.
Yeah, so 6-hour tournament, and that was like the shortest one, which was bravo. They need to be that length, in my opinion. So there's a lot. It's like it reminded me of like almost raiding in WoW, and it's like getting together a raid group and actually raiding is kind of difficult, and it's like that on a smaller scale, but it's the same type of difficulty. It's easy to play the game. It's very difficult to set up a team. But to that, my whole rant about that is like I want to see the competitive scene grow, and I want to see like the teams that are playing get better faster. And that's part of the reason why, if you guys haven't seen, I did a Reddit post with Kusqt's permission, posting I posted all the VODs that I took, but I also highlighted 2 of the games that I thought were of the highest level, which was the Wens Para versus BOB games. Hopefully,
Do we have a link to that?
What's that?
On
We
Reddit?
do.
Is that
Let's
up
just
on
link the
right
Reddit
now?
post. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You should definitely show that off.
I thought that post in combination with good old Malek's post, like just doing all
Yeah,
the
I was
stats
just gonna
and
post
stuff.
that one too.
Those were awesome, John. Everything he
Yeah.
did was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I
We
mean,
got-
just this tournament in general, like there was a lot of really good hype around this. I mean, there was like 16 teams signed up, and then,
Seems like most of them actually showed up too.
yeah, and everyone was streaming. There was VODs up the day of. Like I was able to watch a couple games. I had to work all day, of course, so I didn't get to watch any of it live. But I got to watch a couple of the VODs. I watched both the Spinals VODs that he put up, and a few others I perused, and I was like, this is really cool. Like this felt like the first. Even though, like we said, like this is still in its very, very like infant stages, but this felt like the first real tournament that we've had. Like the other ones, it was like 4 teams. You know what I mean? Like these were, and even though we had like some of the same the winner people who have made to the finals and whatnot, like still ended up making to the finals. But it felt like a bigger deal. This one, I don't know. You guys played in it. Did it feel that way?
I feel like every single week, every single month, the competitive scene takes a step forward, and that's what you have to look for. As long as it's advancing, whether it be slow, fast, or indifferent, it's getting better every single week. And if I could give any tip to any team out there, it's just to stick with it, keep playing, practice. Just find 5 guys who have the same common goal as you, and just keep getting better and enjoy yourself. Have fun with it.
How do you, being a competitive player, I'm not, and I'm kind of on this mission right now to learn multiple shapers, and I'm doing 100 games of each shaper that I want to learn. How important is it as a competitive player to have at least touched every shaper a few times, like let's say 10, 15 games, or what's your suggestion so that you, if you're going to enter into the scene, the best ways to counter, or what it feels like to be that person when they're vulnerable, when they're not vulnerable, etc.
I think you need to, focus on a certain role that you're interested in, right? Play those shapers for that role, and be able to know the ins and outs of the matchup in general. So if it's jungle versus jungle, lane versus lane, whatever, and focus on a specific 3, 4 shapers, and then branch out because you need to have the strong shapers. You need to have those shapers where, if you go to play a team, they say, "Oh wow, Spinal Dash is really good on King of Masks. Maybe we should ban him out, or maybe we should pick it to deny him." So you need to have those really strong shapers, and then once you get your 3 or 4 really strong, you just go ahead and you branch out.
Okay.
Now,
Cool.
speaking of draft, I heard we had a pretty cool tool for
Indeed.
drafting this week, and made
was
by
excellent, yeah.
someone we know. Maybe that person wants to talk a little bit about the draft tool and how it was received, and just what it's like to be a coding god.
I would rather hear from Spinal and Kusqt because I didn't actually get to use it with 10 people. So
Well,
and
it worked
and you
beautifully.
guys, I mean, I know
It worked without a hitch.
picks and
It's awesome.
bans have been like, wasn't there one week where they were like 3 hours each or something? So this had to have helped streamline the process.
There were times, Randy, like back, but before, where I would have the collection open and be like, guys, who did we ban? Who do we need to pick? And just having it all right in front of you, visual, it's awesome, and I love it so much, John. It's really cool.
That's
It's
cool.
really
Yeah,
It's,
go
it
ahead.
took like 5 times longer than I thought it would to build, but I got to learn a new web technology, so that was neat. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll hopefully tie everybody over until there's actually a draft mode in game. Hopefully, we'll serve everyone's roles. I really expected it to just explode, to be honest, because like I had issues trying to run 10 clients on it on my home computer, but yeah, apparently it's good. So I'm very happy that it didn't blow up, and I'm happy you guys are liking it for sure.
What format do you have for the draft, just to educate the people who
So-
haven't used it, or just explain it a
Right.
little bit?
Right now, I mean, it basically runs just like a draft mode champion select in League of Legends. So it's got your standard League of Legends draft format, which is 2 bans each, and you take turns with bans, and then you pick 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. But then we also have Sick Notes variant, which is like ban, 4 picks, and then 2 more bans, and then 4 more picks or something like that.
It's kind of
so
complex.
you can select from that. I think that's similar to
That's
what Dota has.
style. Yeah.
Right. And then you can also switch who picks first, and then if I find time, I'll probably add a mode for battle and bot lane and best shaper world and other 1v1 tournaments if people want to use it, because I mean 2v2 it would just require a very small amount of tweaks, but we'll see if there's interest there.
Well, it would be nice for me and Spinal to have something to look at during the pick and ban screen, and for the people to look
Yeah.
at it other than looking at our faces
We
going,
can-
"Can't wait to show you guys what they picked."
It could be me
Yeah.
versus you. Yeah, and the other thing about that is that there probably won't be the perfect interface for that coming, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
It
sorry, I
would
was just
be-
reading what Terrell Thar said. Yeah, I guess that makes sense when it's one-on-one with no picks. But yeah, I cut you off. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying, making it 2v2, making a 2v2 mode would be good because it probably won't be getting replaced by something Waystone will make in the client.
Yeah, that's tricky too, because right now draft mode only exists in LoL and 5v5. So if you were doing a 4v4 by any chance, yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it. So I mean, I don't know when we'll get around to that. We've got a lot of guide improvements we want to do in the next week, but
Ooh,
soon.
exciting.
Yeah.
No, but it was nice to have the tool, not only to have like kind of like a graphical representation in front of you, but one of the things like I participated in a lot of the tournaments before this, or I was always there kind of on the sidelines, and one of the big issues was the tournaments would take way too long, like 12-hour tournaments, and people would be dead by the end of it. And it'd just be like the finals would just go and be like, I think one finals people were like, you know what, we don't even want to play it. You guys win, and that way we can all go to bed an hour and a half earlier.
Right.
So this tournament was, in my opinion, one of the first tournaments that's been run so well, and partly it was due to the organization of Sick Note and Sportsmith, but also it was due to your draft tool because that forced people to have to pick and ban like in 90-second increments. Because before it would just go on and on. You'd just be like, "Come on,
We're
please ban
we're
something."
we're actually struggling really hard with the countdown because we're like, what do we do? Do we give you a random shaper? Do we like assess a
Right.
penalty? And then I was having a bit of trouble getting the time to sync with everybody, without like really overloading the server. So I ended up just being like, oh, it's just a completely client-side timer. Like, as soon as anything happens, it just restarts the timer and it just sort of like prompts you, be like, okay, your time's up. Like, make your pick. So,
That's neat.
yeah. And I
I
mean,
was scared to let it get to 0.
it just sits
I was
on
like-
0. It's just big and red, and it's like, hurry up, come on.
Spider was nudging me. He's like, "Okay, Cuss, you've got like 6 seconds. Come on."
Come on, come on. I was like, oh god, if it randoms a shaper, we're so screwed.
Yeah, so the easy solution ended up just being just make it say 0, and then everyone will stare awkwardly at whoever's casting. So, but yeah, if people have more feedback about what they want to see improved or changed, we'll always be able to iterate on that if needed.
So I noticed that you actually have 2 different types of band styles in there. So is
Yeah.
that an easy enough thing to add? Is like other band styles?
Extremely easy. Basically, I won't get into the details, but probably like 10 minutes per band style with testing. So
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. So if any of you guys think of an interesting band style and you want to toss it John's way, and if anybody wants to even just play not a real tournament, just one game, just to see how the
I was
band
gonna
style
say,
goes
Muzzy,
and see what
yeah,
it feels like.
you should do some
Yeah.
custom games with the picks and
Yeah.
pans.
Hell yeah, I would love to. I think that would be a lot of fun. Put on like a viewer tournament or something like that. That'd be, even if it's like 3 teams or whatever, like it doesn't matter. It'd
Yeah.
be fun.
yeah, I mean that's the nice thing. You can use it whenever you want for whatever you want, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, how do you get to it without just the link? You go to Dawn Scout?
Just go to Donska. It's on the top. There's a link to it.
Okay, it is. All right. Oh, there it is. Draft Tool Beta. Great. Awesome. Yeah, I knew the actual link. I was just wondering if there was a way to get to it. So that's cool.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're profiling what people are picking and banning too. I was really interested with the draft mode called John Sucks Dicks, but otherwise, yeah. I mean, but it pales in comparison to the stats that good old Malk was able to capture for the tournament. So,
Good job, good
Yeah.
old Mel. One thing that I might suggest, I was thinking about it the other day, John, is maybe listing what the band style is, not just like normal or sick note, but like actually listing, oh, you've chosen this band style.
Yeah.
I
that's the
think that
definite
might be-
problem we've had with a lot of our tools. Is I build it and I'm like, well, I know how to use it, and everyone's like, what the?
Well,
how
that's
do
why
how
you
do I
sent
do
it to me.
Like,
I like that user experience stuff. So I'll help you out with that.
we will improve it for sure.
So, Spinal and Cuss, you guys, tell me a little bit about the way, like, your experience of the tournament. Like, just give everyone like, you guys were on When's Para. Like, how many games did you play? Would you make it to the semifinals, I think?
Yeah, we made
Right.
it to semis.
Made it to the semis?
Yeah.
How'd the beginning games go?
So the first couple of rounds, actually.
Just
okay,
tell
I'll just
people
start
what
it.
it's like to go
You
into.
go ahead.
Not many people play this game competitive 5v5 the way
Right.
you guys did over the weekend. So everyone's used to the solo queue experience. How is this different than just queuing with 5 friends? How is this different from just queuing up for solo queue? Just how is it different? How is competitive Dongate different from regular Dongate? If at
That's a-
all.
That's a good question.
I'm staying quiet
I'll
tonight.
start. What's that?
Nah, nothing.
Can I guess? Can I guess real quick, and then
Go
you
ahead.
can tell me? Because like not being a competitive player, something that I cannot wait to have is draft mode for the reason that you will be able to pick a shaper and know that your team composition isn't complete crap compared to
Right.
the enemy team. And on top of that, you'll be able to pick a loadout that isn't complete crap compared to the enemy team. You know how many times that I run like a hoplite and then I run into a tri-mage game and I'm like, well, there goes that. That's useless. So those are my guesses for some things that are different for between normal and competitive play.
What do you think, Jake?
It definitely starts with the preparation in lobby, being able to pick your team around the enemy's team, and more so being able to pick around the enemy players. Once you're used to playing against somebody for so long, you kind of know what they like to do, who they like to play, how they like to play them, and loadouts come with that too. Being able to set up a really decent loadout for the game that you're about to play. So I mean, it all starts with the lobby, and definitely, I mean, if you play League of Legends ranked mode, not having to play mirror matches is really fun. I don't like to see. I think the biggest gripe with a lot of people right now are the double Basco games. You don't get the double Bascos. You know what I mean? And just seeing different shapers every single game. I think there was only one shaper that wasn't picked the whole tournament, and that was
Which was
Vex.
that?
It was
Oh,
Vex.
Vex, really?
Yeah, it was Vex.
That's a good statement to Waystone's balance. Like, you know what I
That
mean? Say what you
is.
want about Waste, but like that's more of a shaper. You know, that's more of a character pool than you see in LCS. You know?
Yeah.
Like that's pretty impressive
should,
for 30 shapers, 29 getting picked. That's not bad.
And that's the thing. People have raised the argument like, how can that game be competitive? There's only 30 shapers, and I raise the argument. Well, there's only 20 viable characters in League of Legends, right? You see the same 20 or 25, right? And I feel like Dawngate is more balanced and diverse right now. Maybe because we don't, understand the strengths and weaknesses of shapers enough right now to really make a defined tier list. But I really think, hats off to Waystone for making every single shaper really unique and strong in its own way. So
Would
Oh yeah, Petrus wasn't picked either.
who wasn't Petrus?
So still
Yeah.
2 out of
20.
30.
he was banned once though. I wonder.
Oh, that counts.
Okay.
That
Really?
counts.
Does that count?
yeah, it should.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I don't
Almost
know.
every segment.
I was gonna say I don't know. Like, there's definitely the competitive scene is very new. Nobody really knows nobody's really hashed out. Has it had the opportunity to hash out like what is really the fucking best and the best? But I feel the same way that Kusqt does. Like, I feel like there is a strong amount of balance here. Like, even though like Mina and Maro were probably the most banned shapers when we were playing, even when they got through, like, it didn't feel like it was like, oh god, it's all over. Everything felt within a relative area of balance. So I
One
thought
thing-
that was pretty cool.
One thing I wanted to question you guys on is when you come into a game, do you have like a set strategy you're trying to run every time? Like, we're always going to go to this bush, or did you guys try to mix it up every game? Like, just at level 1?
Well, with how available VODs are and how small the community is, people are able to research you a lot easier if they, so desire. We have tons of different things we do at level 1, and sometimes it's different. Sometimes we like to throw out the same because sometimes, I'm going to use.
They'll
a
never do it
Counter-Strike term.
again.
Yeah, the Counter-Strike term that the real diffuse is the new fake diffuse, essentially. So,
Rush B site.
but yeah, there's tons of starts that we do, and there's tons of starts that other teams do, and we always have to mix it up and do something different.
So,
Here's a. Oh, go ahead.
sorry. I was going to say, in general, in the tournament, do you guys find people are invading more often than not, or playing a really safe level 1 with safe wards and protecting their jungle and just starting out the game
It's a
safely?
lot of aggressive warding, but a lot of teams aren't interested in level 1 engagements from what I've seen for the past 2, 3, 4 months that I've been playing competitive. The best way to walk into a game is to test your limits with warding, because the deeper the wards are, the more information you have on their jungler, and a lot of people, bring up the point on Reddit that I see a lot. Being able to control the enemy jungler will give you all the action you need to succeed in lane. Knowing when you can be aggressive, when you can push. The deeper your wards, the safer you are, essentially. So there's a lot of aggressive warding.
Cool. Good to know. Sorry for cutting you off too, Muzzy. What were you?
No,
gonna
no,
ask?
it's fine. I didn't realize the topic wasn't done yet. I have another different question, and I'm just laughing at what was said in stream about you. So I may have forgotten. uh,
As John
yeah,
furiously reads back chat.
yeah. He's like, what, where? Organic said it. I'll just say that. So, okay. So I remember the question. In competitive play, I actually don't. I've seen like very few of the competitive like actual competitions, but I've seen a few of the scrims and stuff like that people stream. But not everybody practices like their exact method and stuff like that in scrims because it's being streamed to everybody. So I don't really know the answer to this. Are there already being team comps made, for example, like an AoE ult team comp, like in League you see that kind of thing, Ziggs and a Mumu and a Zyra, and it's just like all these giant circle ults. And I don't know that we have enough shapers to really do that, but I'm just wondering if there's like certain people that or certain teams that decide, what, let's have this kind of a team, let's have this kind of a team, etc.
Yeah, there absolutely are. Some of the subtypes of comps there are the Protect the Vex is the first one that comes to mind. Lots of peels.
Not
lots
this
of
tournament
Protect the
though.
Vex. Not this tournament. No. I don't know many teams who tried out double AD carry because it is so hard to get to the late game. But I know my team was experimenting with it, a month ago or so, because I had two really strong AD carries on my team that were able to flex back and forth between mages and ADs. So it was something that we wanted to throw into our arsenal, but we never really got off the ground. There are pick comps. Those usually involve like a Kensu or a Moya. Amaranth, things like these, like wombo combos. And then there's just your standard shields and peels. Bob ran tons of shield comps, and they are scary. Shielding is scary right now. I take back everything I said about Pain ruining shield comps. They don't. They make them actually able to be dealt with. Shielding is very, very strong right now in the current meta.
I did notice that Dibs had an extremely high pick and ban count, and I was surprised because like generally in solo queue I don't see a lot of Dibs, and I do hear from time to time people kind of poo-pooing the Dibs pick compared to say Mina or some of the other supports.
Did you see the second? Yeah. Did you see? I was just there talking about Otzi ran Gladiator Viana while Tulse ran Tactician Dibs, and I watched that in one of the in Spinal's second VOD. He lanes against it, and it's a nightmare. I mean, it's absolute.
We got destroyed.
What was that like? Like that? Now that's a comp you're never gonna see. You're never gonna see that in solo queue. So that's what I'm talking about when the difference between competitive Dawn Gate and solo queue Dawn Gate. Like that's something that there's no way you could have prepared for that, right? You guys had no idea about that, did you?
No, we went into that game thinking, oh man, if we can just get to the point where we get some Pains, get some AoE, we should be all right. And that team is very, very, they're all very good players. And when you get shields rolling really early, you can't secure ganks, you can't secure kills in lane. It's scary to lane against. It's scary to play against. And we got behind early, and once you get behind early against that kind of team comp, it's just like you're done. And yeah, you don't see it much in solo queue, but Bob did an incredible job with the comp.
So
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, would you consider banning out their shield shapers as opposed to the generally regarded OPs, quote unquote?
I think I don't know which teams banned out who, but I know for a fact that this is not so much interested in the OPs. Really, we let Basco go through a lot this tournament. I can tell you right now, we'll never let go through. Let her go through because she is deadly. But But the shielding comps, yeah. I mean, I could definitely see myself, if we don't find a better way to deal with it, to ban out the Dibs or the Renzo, because they're really, really strong right now.
I mean,
Cool.
what you guys, I think I don't know if it's a problem or not, but the way it works basically is shielding is highly counterable, right? There's an item in the game that reduces the effectiveness of all shields when they hit that person, or heals for that matter, also by 50%. So when you have a mechanic that is just cut in half, right, by another mechanic, that the mechanic itself, which is the shielding, has to be really strong when it's not being countered, and and then because it has to be really strong when it's not being countered so that it can compensate for the fact that it's going to be eventually countered. And I think what we realized over the course of the games was shielding is it's an immense early game advantage. And when you're playing against those, you have to minimize their advantages and maximize your advantages. And so, like, we had to minimize our early game and make less engages in the early game, and then transition into a mid game where we had the counters to the shields, and then we would have the advantage. Um, and I think over the course of those games, especially the second one where they went like full shield comp, Fianna, Dibs, Renzo, um, that we realized kind of just how strong shielding can be early. And there's like the last fight at our Guardian lasts like 3 minutes plus.
That was an
It's
epic
just-
fight. I want a highlight of just that fight. That is like
I'm gonna
the
go- I'll
longest
make a
team
highlight.
fight I've ever seen.
It's really beautiful. It's really
I
beautiful.
mean,
It
you
was
guys
like-
are just constantly getting stomped because, like, the thing that you don't realize is that you guys are constantly going back to your fountain and healing, and they're not. And they're just
Right.
sitting there and just, like, eating all of your health. You go heal, and they're just like, haha, shields, bozos. It was.
And then
it
we
was
had to we have to stop fighting to go clear some creeps for a little bit because they're at our cores. It was really cool. I'll do a highlight of that fight. I was really happy in the middle of it. I was just like, oh man, this fight is lasting forever. But, and that's just part of getting behind against a shield comp. It's just like, you don't want to get behind against them.
Or,
And
or
they
getting
really
behind
really had like a
strong team in
timing
general.
window to win. They really had a timing window to win, and they took advantage of it.
Cool.
But that's a viable
cool.
strategy. Like, I like that that's a strategy that can exist, that you go for kind of like an early game shield comp. Let's not let them get ahead. Let's press the advantage and win quickly. And then you can have the protect the Vex. We need to let him survive for 35 minutes until you can get, 4 or 5 items. I like that there's that variety. It seems right now the fast push, get ahead early, win quickly thing seems to be the strategy. But as we've seen, the way balance and the way things go, I mean, that could change within a week after one patch or something like that. So it's cool to see that it's already kind of like, a little mini, this comp can beat this comp but loses to this comp kind of thing, like a bigger rock paper scissors thing happening, like the way it's supposed to be between archetypes. You might be able to see that kind of thing with team comps, and that adds another layer of strategy.
Definitely. There's a question in chat, bit of a long one, but asking basically how early game comps compared to mid game comps compared to late game comps, and how balanced you felt that was, or was a certain type of comp a little too overwhelming?
Like, what did you guys, what even did you guys do what was, in the games that you won, how did, was it because of a strategy or did you just outplay?
In the games that we won, I think a majority of them, we were able to run really, really solid pick comps. And when you can run a pick comp, based around a Moya or a Salis jungle, and then build around that and get ahead early, you can keep that lead really, really easy. I think a lot of our wins were based around getting ahead early in a pick comp. But as far as the late game comps are concerned, I think Zaugus is in a little bit of a weak state right now in the meta. Not as a shaper. I think he's a very strong shaper. But I think Zaugus doesn't fit in too well. He's very, very strong in the late game. Vex is very, very strong in the late game. And they're just not fitting in too well right now. So I think when you're picking for a team comp, you need to pick for, we need to get things done early, and we need to just take our lead if we get that lead and get the ball rolling with it. Because if you get too behind and you're trying to rely on getting to the late game, you're not going to get there.
I think Zalgus is particularly not underwhelming. He's underutilized. I think he's gonna show up in a big way. I think it's just gonna take people time to realize what his strengths and weaknesses are. Like I don't know. I don't think it's really known if his laning phase is strong or weak. He has a stronger auto attack than most. He has a stronger auto attack than most mages, but he has a glaring weakness in his no mobility.
Yeah.
And I think also part of his issue is that like no mobility just leaves him open to the dive arenas from the over farmed jungles. But I think I don't know. I don't know if I think he's very viable. I think it's just a matter of time.
Just get an impulse and do the moonwalk chains.
Dude, I've been
Yo,
no
impulse
joke,
is so much fun
could
on
work.
Zalgus. It's so good.
It work.
I've been building impulse in all my games in the last like 3 or 4 days, and I actually impulsed over a wall as Nisa when I was kiting a bruiser, and it was like the highlight of my career. It was just amazing.
It makes you look like such a pro. I had a game where I was playing Zalgus, and I got dove underneath the binding by, I don't know, like a Koggin or someone like that, some big bruisery bozo, and I impulsed away from him and chained him, and I just looked like I was like, oh yeah, that's right, twerp with the plays. I did nothing. I right-clicked him. But like it just looked so cool. I was just like, oh no, look.
I've been waiting for it to like that item to be made amazing.
It's
on
just so
someone
expensive.
Ranged. I haven't seen anyone with ranged ever get it. So
I started getting it this weekend. It's a fun item, but
I think it works. I think Zalgus is well suited to using it.
But is it slot worthy? Does it have the stats and the passive to take up a full slot?
I think that's where the question lies too, Mozzie. Is it slot worthy?
I'd rather have an insight, I think, because insight got hella buffed. When I'm using my one slot for how do I live and stay safe, like I think insight wins out just because I can stand further back. But it's fun to use. I know, like when I was not getting any peels for my team, it felt incredibly powerful because a lot of people would use like say a Kel charge or something, and I would just immediately be away from it. I mean, is it the best item in the game? Probably not, but like it certainly feels viable enough and situationally effective that it, in theory, could win me some games I might have lost otherwise. Maybe.
I feel like Kensu, I've had some trouble against Kensu as Basco lately just because every time I go to ult him, he uses his W and he's fucking gone. He's just gone. And so I'm wondering, Kensu kind of has a built-in insight in a way. I mean, not insight, impulse, but it takes some time to wind up, obviously. But I'm wondering how often with insight on a ranged person, will you push yourself into the wrong place? Like, how often does that happen?
My experience thus far has been that it's been rare, but it's definitely happened where I've been stun locked and the AD carry has sort of, or not AD carry, sorry, the bruiser has positioned himself for chasing me down. And if I want to auto attack him, then I have to push myself in the wrong direction, and that's a scary situation. But in general, I think if you are gonna pick up impulse, dispel is kind of like a must-have as well. So when you do get hit with hard CC, you combo it with a burst of speed and a jump back. But
right.
Again, we're talking about like solo queue games where it's just fun to dick around. I don't think that I would ever see a competitive team actually picking it up in their core item build.
But aren't the competitive people the top tier players who can make something that seems so wonky work really well and just make amazing plays with it? Wouldn't you expect them to actually use it to the best of its ability?
I wouldn't. I would expect competitive people to use really statistically relevant items. Like, for example, you guys are talking about the shield comps earlier. Like, there's nothing particularly flashy about shields. They're just like, look at these fucking shields. They're big, And like, obviously, you can time them well and mitigate damage well, but it's like that's like a stat. That's like the inverse of health, or I guess damage is the inverse of health. But like it's just like it's raw efficiency, and I think that's what most like teams I assume are striving to use, right? You want as much power as possible without saying, oh, this only works in this one chance, otherwise we lose the game.
Yeah, conditionals. I don't think the good players would bank that much on
Right.
conditionals. They'd rather like, oh, I want a survivability item. I'll just get prosperity. You know.
I think that goes back to what you guys were saying. One shots the entire team, but which is awesome, right? But more often than not, you get chains on like one bruiser because they're all up in your face and you die, and it's like, well, if only it was perfect, but it's not perfect, so you know.
That has to be the best feeling in the game, though, right? Getting that
Oh my God.
5-man chain, and I don't think there's a feeling that compares to it. Is just blowing up a whole team with a 5-man chain.
It when I kill somebody that's not my primary target with a combo, it's just like, oh, you guy over there, you're
It's like
dead.
you get up and you just start dancing.
There's a couple really good Zalgus players in solo queue that I can just see like take the game. Like it's like a close match, and they're like, you know what, I want to win now. And like blink chains, ulti, boom, dead, and it's just like solo queue great. But I'm not surprised that you guys are not using them in your 5v5 team comps.
It's just funny too, because it's like when you do that, like with Zalgus, there's enough. You get chained, and then you're like, oh shit! Like there's enough time for you to process it and see it happen, and like, oh no. So I don't know why it works out perfectly like that, but it's just like because you can see the gate open up, and but the damage doesn't go off till later. When the lasers, like the targeting aspect of it goes first, then you see like the pulse come, and you're just like, oh no.
And then they stasis and it does 0
I have a
damage.
quick question for all of you guys, especially competitive people, because I've noticed that, like, let's say I'm dealing damage to money pigs or even a shaper or something, and then you click on them to get their little information up in the upper left-hand corner, and you see the life draining to get to where it's supposed to be at, where it actually is. It always starts at 100 and drains down, and there have been plenty of times where that drain right there makes me go, like, I'm looking at it, waiting for it to get to the proper place sometimes, and I'm like, oh no, I can't tell if I should Vanquish, I can't tell if I should use this burst ability right now, if it's gonna work, etc., etc. Have you guys ever had issue with that? Like, have you noticed that?
Cuz, you're the jungler. I have my answer though.
Can you word that differently? I don't really follow.
So if you watch, like, okay, so let's say you're damaging, let's say money pigs. Or
Money pigs.
Right? A money pig, yeah. And then as you're trying to damage it, right, you forget that you haven't clicked on it yet so that you can see its health, because your health bar covers up the entire money pigs for some reason, right? Okay. Which it totally does all the time for me. I have to work on positioning, apparently. But then you see, the second that you click on it, let's say he has 10% health, the thing in the upper right-hand corner will drop down from 100% down to 10%, but by then you've already actually knocked it a bit lower. So it doesn't give you an accurate reading right away. I know this is a little thing, but it hit me today that I was like, that's what's happening. It really fucking bugs me.
I don't know. Whenever I'm jungling and I'm, trying to take an important objective, whether it be a buff, whether it be a big pig, whether it be parasite, and there's a team fight breaking out, or whatever, I always leave my camera, or not my camera, I guess my health bar on the neutral objective that we're fighting for.
I see.
So
right.
it's always updating whenever
right.
you don't click it.
So before you even start it, you've already selected it.
I already have it selected.
All right. So I'll work on that. That's fine.
Also, I was gonna say, I don't look at life bars, I look at numbers. Like it's hard. You have to like mouse over your Vanquish. Like they should show something on your Vanquish icon to show how much it vanks for. But once you find the number you're vanking for, you're looking for that number in the health bar. It doesn't matter what. I don't look at the colors. I don't know.
Right.
That's just me though,
Yeah, I'll just have to click on it a little bit sooner. I mean, I generally try to look at the number and compare it to the Vanquish, but still, it starts at like 1800 life, and then it drops down slowly or quickly, but still too slowly. And anyway, we don't have to talk about it. I was just wondering if it's affected anybody else besides me.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, basically, what I'm assuming the bug there is you select that guy, the first selection has him at 100%, then you see him at like 30%, and it has to tween the bar down. I mean, that should probably not animate when you select it, because I can
Right.
certainly see why that would be very frustrating if you use that UI element to smite. Personally, I use the things that are over their head for smiting, but I'm also not a
Really?
jungler.
So
Um,
you've memorized exactly where that bar is
I don't.
for
Well,
Vanquish.
here's the thing about
I
vanquishing.
gotta
I'm
do
sure
that.
these junglers in this call is going to just roast me, but vanquishing is like a feeling. Like, you feel it. You know when the damage rate. You know where it needs to be. You know when the burst is gonna come through. At least like it felt like that in League. Obviously, vanking your own like little buffs, sure, whatever. But like Parasite, it just feels like you gotta use your Jedi mind tricks to just know. You gotta know that exact second because people are pumping in hundreds of damage per second of that.
Yep.
You can't literally tell me that your like 0 millisecond latency perfectly robotically detects that the health drops below the smite threshold or the vanquish threshold because I feel like you almost have to hit it just a bit early. So that's my I don't even know, man. Fix the UI.
I was held on to my Vanquish too long and get outvanked, so
Yeah.
Twerp
Yeah.
vicious.
I do it
just
all the
waiting
time.
for the perfect
Twerp
moment,
vicious.
just waiting. Like, I'm gonna get. Ah, no, I missed it again.
I
funny
mean,
that
you
you-
have.
No, go ahead, Spinal.
I was just gonna say you have to. It's not only the number, you also have to estimate the amount of damage you have coming in through to Parasite, and then you have to estimate like how much damage you can burst, and then you have to estimate how much damage the enemy jungler can burst if he's gonna try and burst it. There's a lot of moving variables, especially if somebody stops DPSing or starts DPSing unexpectedly on the Parasite. So yeah, there's
CC's
definitely
coming
Yeah.
in.
a lot of feeling going in there, right?
Mm.
And that's why smite steals happen too.
Yeah.
I play the whole game based on feeling.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, do I feel like this is a good idea? Yeah, sure it is. Let's do it. Oh, I just got everyone killed. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a lot of that. Like, you ever notice you can feel like there's somebody in that bush. I know there is. I'm gonna check it anyway.
But yeah, no, it's,
My
I'm
mods-
gonna go for that CS
Let me go
anyway.
check, because I know there's somebody in
Yeah.
there.
I just want to be sure that I'm gonna die when I go in here.
Yep. Yep.
So for the rest of the tournament, then you guys eventually went to the semifinals. You lost to BOB in the semis. BOB went on to win the tournament. In the games that you lost, what did what do you feel like went wrong? Was it like a team comp thing? Was it, did you misjudge something somewhere else? Was it just mistakes, like, or a little bit of everything? Like, where did you go wrong? Where did the dream die, guys? I want to know.
Oh.
That's
I mean,
Team
you don't have
captain.
to. You don't have to like. Well, this guy screwed up, but I'm just,
No,
a general
I-
sense.
I never roast my players
Yeah.
in front of other people. I'll roast them in private. No, I think Bob's a great team, and whenever my team goes into a tournament, our eyes are set to kill for them. And sometimes we make mistakes trying to close out a game we're ahead in. The first game we were playing against them, I felt like we were really far ahead of them. We had the the game in our hands, and it was a collective effort of game of throws, I guess. The second game, our game plan was just a little off. I know personally I can roast myself. I didn't play the game correctly. Every time I would go in to try and get something going for my lanes, it was shield heaven. I couldn't kill a thing. I should have just been ignoring lanes and doing my own thing. And
It also helps when you actually land your landfalls.
come on, even if I would have won,
I saw that one. I was just like, ooh, that one had to hurt.
I'm gonna go.
I'm sorry.
But no, I mean, the second game was definitely a preparation thing. I'm changing my roster almost every week, and I need to set 5 guys that I can trust and that I can practice with. And it's hard when you put 5 players together who are really strong players in a solo queue environment, and it's hard to settle them all down and get them ready after a loss whenever when you don't have 100% complete trust in each other, right?
Yeah, and
So-
BOB, I mean,
Gotta get that trust.
they're one of the older teams. A lot of those guys have been playing together for a very long time. So, I mean, you guys just like grab Spinal off the street for God's sake.
Basically.
Yeah, Spinal played amazingly though. I have no gripes with how Spinal played at all. It was just, but going back to the Bob thing, it was just a lack of preparation and refocusing in the second game. But the first game, it was just game of throws, and that could largely be on my part. I'll take the blame because I
Could
feel
have been. Who knows?
you know what I mean. So
Hard to say.
that's kind of what happened.
So then after BOB beat you guys, they went on and they beat FDAT in the finals. And in game 2 of the finals, FDAT was down a lot early on, and they like surrendered early on in the game. And what do you guys think about surrendering in the competitive environment? Is it something that you're okay with it, or do you think that like, I don't know, maybe we should play it out because it is like a tour? And I know it's still like very early on into the scene and all stuff like that, but it's just, I don't know, I kind of feel like there shouldn't really be necessarily surrenders in competitive tournaments, especially when you get towards the end of it. In the beginning of it, and there's a lot of games to be played, and you're like, whatever, we have more games, or it's the part of like a 5-game series, something like that. What do you guys think about that kind of thing? Is that something like on your team, if you're down a lot early on, do you feel like you'd ever be like, yeah, let's just throw this game in, let's just surrender?
I can't say that I entirely disagree with it, because if I said that, I'd be a hypocrite. My team has done it before in the past. We were down really, really hard. It was the patch where Ferris with Duelist was bugged, and we had McScrag on Duelist Ferris, and I couldn't even walk into my jungle without dying because Ferris was just way too strong at the time. It was pre-nerf, it was Duelist bug, and we ended up forfeiting that game at around 13 minutes. I don't know if you watched any of the Dota tournament, but there were teams that forfeited at 5 minutes. So I mean,
But Dota doesn't have
Really?
a surrender mechanic, so they were just like leaving
Oh,
games.
that's-
yeah,
say
they just
say
ma-
GG.
yeah,
right?
you just
say GG and that's
you
it.
manually leave. Yeah,
And don't type GG accidentally. Don't do that.
that
Really?
could be bad.
They think it's over.
I think that's happened before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it happened
really.
to Evil Geniuses a year or two ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I recall
minutes.
correctly, the international finals today had all 4 games ending in a forfeit. But I might be wrong. I mean, that's like millions of dollars. So I mean, if those guys can surrender with millions on the line, I would say just flat out in customs put the surrender timer at 0 minutes and let the teams decide. But that's me.
But now,
in customs, you said?
Yeah, in customs. Yeah.
I mean, there's reasons for both sides. I think these games, especially these MOBA type games, have a very strong psychological element, and it's like, and that's part of the difficulty of it. It's not only finding players that are strong players of the game, but they have to be mentally strong too. And one of the things you can do to reserve or preserve your team's mental state is surrender when you know things are over, and you kind of cut out all the extra like 5-10 minutes of you guys just trying and failing inevitably because of the way the games work. But on the other side of the spectrum, like as a spectator, I feel like, is there like a point where like we start taking esports like seriously if we want ESPN to take us seriously, because they did just throw up Dota 2 on ESPN. Does surrendering early, like in the first 5 or 10 minutes, does that take away from esports? Like I don't know.
and that's kind of where I was going with this whole thing. Like, I'm all for surrendering in solo queue games and whatnot. I just think if at a certain point, if you want the goal of esports is to be looked at as a legitimate sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the entire world got to watch Brazil get trounced by Germany in the World Cup.
Yep.
They didn't
I
get to
bet you they
surrender.
wanted to.
I bet they
I
wanted
bet
to
if they
surrender.
had-
Yeah, you're right. And there
had a
was no
G
point in
button, they
playing
would've
that
hit
game
it.
out. But at the same time, I don't know if professionalism is the right word, but it's almost like it's like a respect thing. I don't know what it is, but it's almost like we've entered an agreement to in a competitive arena for this amount of time, and that's it. And then I almost feel like if you're just like, oh well, we're losing really bad, like it's just up time to leave, like it's just. I don't know. It's just one of
Kinda
those things that makes video games feel like they'll never be taken seriously as a
Yeah.
sport because it's like, oh, well, you can. And anyone who's like a traditionalist, old-timey sports guy is never going to take it seriously. You're like, well, they can just quit 5 minutes into the game if they want. Like, Don Mattingly never quit on the Yankees. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but is that. But, like, that argument, you have to think about it in a sense, too, because, like, that's how people feel about it. And if you do want to be looked at in the same light as these other things, is that something that maybe should get addressed? I know chat is exploding right now, but I think this is an interesting topic.
I think so
I don't
too.
know. Do you really think that like you care if your dad watches League of Legends? Like do you really think that they surrendered is going to be the thing that kills the game, or is it going to be these nerds are playing a video game? Like I feel like the only people that are going to want to watch this game are going to be the gamer types, and I don't think that surrender votes is the thing that's going to seal the deal for you. Obviously, surrendering in the grand finals of the international and having those games be so stompy is kind of lame. But like in the season 3 World Championships of League of Legends, it was also a 3-0 stomp. They could have just as easily surrendered early on. Like, I don't think there's a lot of value in watching a team get pummeled into the ground.
There's not, but there's no no sport would ever want to give up. Like, all right, for instance, if you have an allotted time with which to play a game, you're not going to want to give away time from that event, like, and lose potential people who could see it during that time. All right, I'm not explaining this properly, but it's
You mean
basically
commercial
like.
breaks,
Well,
right?
But yes,
Money.
just upon the possibility of all those things. I mean, now fantasy LCS is a thing. You're mad when someone surrenders now if you have them on your LCS team. In
You lose
football,
points,
fantasy football is insanely popular, and garbage time is like fucking money time for a lot of people. You're like, oh man, here come the backups. Like, I have this guy. He's the backup running back. He's going to get sick touches right now. I am super hyped for this. Like, there are other things. Like, I don't think it's ever a good idea to take away content, if that makes any sense. Whether it be an extra 10 minutes in a stomp or anything, I don't think it's good for growth.
Right. Well, I can see both sides of that fence. I mean, at one point, with the way Dongate's designed, the surrenders seem to be kind of like built-in mercy rules, which do exist in a lot of amateur sports. Like, when you're stomping somebody so hard, like when you're up by 10 points at a certain inning or period, at least I assume it's this way in the U.S. because I'm only familiar with amateur Canadian sports. But there's certainly mercy rules that will just end the game to ease their suffering. But like you say, fantasy LCS is cool, and fantasy football is extremely popular, and fantasy Coca-Cola ads every 4 minutes is also a real thing.
Yeah, becoming a real sport means, dealing with advertisers and executives and things like, wait a minute, I'm paying for a supposed, 20 to 45 minute match that you're going to tell me now ended in 8 minutes, and my
Right.
Coca-Cola ad only ran for 8 minutes when we agreed on 30. Like, that's not going to help esports grow. That's not going to help
That's a
companies
really
and
good
people
point.
with money legitimize us. And that's the thing. It's more about that argument rather than, like you said before, my dad watching the LCS. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But,
Right.
Coke is still going to be a thing. Gatorade or whatever sponsor you want to put out there,
Energem.
they want more time than less time. So that's kind of my where my approach to this
I
whole
think
thing is.
if I'm let me get this straight, Twerp. Okay. One, do you think having rules for surrendering will help esports grow in the global sense, as in like on ESPN?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I think not having surrendering would help.
Just eliminating surrendering.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I don't have all of my thoughts together on the whole thing. I'm just telling you from if I was a third party looking at this as something to potentially buy, that makes it that delegitimizes it, something like that, where it's like the game could just end at 8 minutes. Like, wait a minute, what do you mean? What do you mean everyone could just leave? Like, I don't think that's a good sell.
I certainly see what you're coming from. Like, let's say I'm a potential investor and I'm like, man, I really want to get into this esports thing. Let me check out this international. It's got a 3 or 4 hour time slot potentially. You know, they're supposed to be playing 5 games, and then it's like surrender, surrender, surrender. Okay, bye. And you're like, ooh, that one ad I got when it should have been 5 or 6. I can certainly see that being the type of thing that says, okay, I'm not going to buy ad space there. I can certainly respect and appreciate that opinion. And it is one of the things the LCS certainly does very well, is like their games start generally at the same time. They have their set 3-minute commercial breaks. They play their ads. Like, it's a pretty legitimate thing.
You do have to maintain, a schedule for these sorts of things if you want to.
Well,
if you want to be a big boy, you got to act like a big boy.
but you could fill in that time. I mean, you could fill in that time with anything. You don't. It doesn't have to be the game being played. Like, if the game goes for 8 minutes, you could fill in the next 30 minutes with interviews or, Dibs dancing
filler.
across the screen.
Filler content. I agree. You can do that.
That's
give it
definitely
some.
important.
Go ahead.
Well, do you remember, like, even a couple of years ago, like, esports tournaments would start like an hour late or 2 hours late. Like, by the end of the second day, like, they'd be delaying matches to the next day. It was just like incredibly poorly run. But now with LCS and international, everything's going really, really smoothly. It's getting that, sort of really legitimate feel. You got Coca-Cola sponsors. It's
That's what I mean, man. It's becoming, it is kind of becoming a thing, and I'm just to continue that growth and to continue to be a part of that conversation. Esports have already eclipsed anything I ever thought was possible in my lifetime. Like, I used to look at video games and be like, haha, yeah, nice try, nerds. But now, with MOBAs especially, it's just it's really incredible, and the production value is insane right now. Like, I mean, the studio Riot has built for LCS stuff, like, that is just mind-boggling with what's there, and that's just the beginning of it. So, ESPN tested the waters a little bit with this international thing. It's very possible we could see more and more mainstream coverage of MOBAs if the communities continue to grow and these people continue to support this genre via streaming and watching streams and consuming the media. That this could very well be on ESPN a couple years from now, and it won't be that surprising to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's doing a lot of good steps. And like for me, I don't care if it's on ESPN or whatever TV. I don't even really need it on TV because I'm watching it on Twitch. But like seeing the advertisements come in is pretty cool.
It is. And we can all talk about that Sick Note tournament back in July of 2014. That's when it all started.
What do you think, Cuss? What are your thoughts on the issue?
On forfeiting?
Well, just
And
the legitimacy, and how all of that, all the crap I was just spewing.
As far as scrimmages are concerned and everything behind the curtains, I think forfeit away. But I mean, if you are aiming to become a legitimate sport, if you want it to be recognized across the world, I totally agree with you, Randy. Like, forfeiting is unprofessional. It's a letdown for the fans. If it does have a big viewing, if it did go big, it's, I don't know. I would hate to see tons of forfeiting if that's what I was really into watching, years down the road.
I mean, like a TKO kind of thing can be there. Like if an econ difference does get to a certain point, you can have an option where it could end feasibly that way. Like there's ways we could work around it. I just don't like the idea of just like everyone on the team is like, yeah, you know what, we're 9 minutes into this game. I don't think we're gonna win. We're down 8 kills already, and yeah, it's probably an insurmountable odd to overcome. But at the same time, isn't that one of the greatest moments in sports sometimes happen when you don't expect anything
Did
to
you-
happen. And 9 times out of 10, it won't happen that way. But that one time there's a comeback. That's the thing everybody talks about. That's the
Dude.
thing that everyone's like, dude, did you see that? They were down 11 kills, down 15k of gold, and then they came
No
back.
joke, dude. Yesterday in the LCS, CLG was down like 15,000 gold, and Doublelift got like back-to-back Tetra kills, and the game-winning fight ended up with their entire team aced and the support pushing the base. Like, I mean, that's the kind of game that if you just surrender when you're 15k back, like that never would have almost happened.
And especially
Right.
in a hyper competitive environment, it's not like you're with 4 other solo queue bozos and you're like, these guys are more. It's like, this is your damn team, man. Like, you guys, you should have faith in you guys. Like, no, like, it's all right. We're screwing up, or at least just enough that you want to continue fighting to the end. I don't know. That's just me. It just feels bad, and things that
Yeah.
feel bad, we should talk about and see if we can make them not feel bad.
Yeah.
Now, do
My
people
experience in
forfeit-
solo queue, or even with group queue, I mean, it's not competitive play, but there have been. I don't like surrendering. I really don't like to, but there have been
I
a
don't
few
like to
times.
either.
Yeah, there are a few times though where I'm like, guys, it's obvious that we're making really bad plays. We're super down. They've clearly snowballed. What are we gonna do? We're gonna turtle? Okay, let's turtle. Fine. Let's I click no on the surrender, and then we go and we try to turtle, and it's like trying your hardest, and you're not really on mental tilt. You're just on clearly you guys can't win the fight, and you still lose underneath your guardian, and you're like, okay, yeah, maybe you were right. And it's like, yeah, but not everybody can see that coming. So there are times when surrenders seem like they're more viable than wasting your time, I guess. But that's different from
solo
competitive
queue.
play. Yeah, that's different
In
from
solo queue,
competitive
if we're
play.
losing, I want to quit right away. Give me the next game because I might get fed next game. Like anyone that's ever played with me before, like they've heard my sighs on vent when they get double killed, like in the other lane. It's just like, all right, next game. Like I can very certainly relate. So I'm just a big hypocrite. Like that's why I definitely feel like outside of the hyper competitive setting, like I'm fully in support of just get me out of this game. Let me try again.
But I think
Right,
Dawn
but that-
Gate.
Go ahead.
man.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Well, I think Dawn Gate in general has the biggest room for comebacks of any MOBA that I've played. And being behind 4, 5, 6,000 Vim, the Guardian is exceptionally strong. You don't have Guardians in League. You have a little Nexus with 2 little towers, and just comebacks in this game are so much easier. So being behind a little bit, it's a lot easier to deal with for me at least in this game.
But don't you feel like playing from behind kind of sucks without any mana? Like it just feels. Don't you ever feel like, man, I can't out trade. They've got map position. I'm just slowly losing the game. Like I don't feel like it's that easy to come back. Like I do get comebacks, but the feeling is not super great. Like I always feel like I'm really weak, especially as AD carry.
You definitely can't contest the thing when you're behind, and that's basically a rule of thumb for any MOBA, especially with how hard people can snowball and keep that lead and keep that trade lead without mana. But just being able to hold, not so much at bindings. I still feel bindings are a little bit weak towards the later stages of the game, but earlier they're a lot stronger than they ever were, and I think they're definitely in a good place. But being able to come back, under the Guardian, it's so much easier. But yeah, I mean, you can't contest anything, and you're totally right about that.
Yeah, you have to play differently. Your job is not to contest. Your job is to force them into mistakes by spreading it out. You force them into, if they want to collect all their Vim, they want to stop you from collecting all your Vim, they're going to have to spread out a lot. And when they spread out a lot, that gives you opportunities to intercept. And it's not easy. And there's definite points where you can make comebacks like the bindings, or the Guardian is the biggest one. It's a different game. You have to play it differently. But I think right now Dongay is a little bit too snowbally. I told that to Gasty, and I think he agreed. So hopefully we'll see some improvements in that. Because I feel like in League of Legends, if you ace them, you have a better chance of coming back than you do in Dawn Game.
Right. Well, in League of Legends, you can take massive map objectives when you clear out a corner of the map. Like, you can grab 2 or 3 turrets and a Baron, which is pretty huge.
Well,
I don't fully agree
actually,
that Dawngate is too snowbally though. I'll let you come back, but I don't agree that Dawngate is too snowbally because like you said, there was teams surrendering in Dota at 5 minutes. Like it seems like of the games, it's at least slightly less snowbally. The GG point is at least further down the line. But sorry, I didn't mean to keep going over. You can go, man.
I think a lot of the snowball effect has to do with how strong the bruisers are right now in the game, right? I mean, I think a lot of you guys can agree with me, and I'm sure the Twitch chat can agree with me. But getting behind early, especially when those kills are going onto bruisers, I mean, it's great, and it'd be awesome if they were going on 80 carries for the enemy team, obviously. But seeing that gold or that Vim go to bruisers early on is just making that bruiser strength go up significantly, and that's where it's hardest to come back is when you've got a bruiser 15 minutes in with 3 legendary items because he had a really strong early game, and that's where
Do you think that's
comebacks also.
do you
Yeah.
think that's still going to be happening with these bruiser nerfs?
um with the bruiser nerfs that just came out, or like what they planned for progression patch.
In
Um,
32-1.
what just came out, it's kind of confusing to me, where they're putting their nerfs at for bruisers. I don't know exactly where they need to put them at, but bruisers have a lower scaling health than all the AD carries in the game right now.
And that just got changed in the recent patch that went through the hotfix patch. The scaling per level got knocked again.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, in the patch that, like the Basco patch, I want to call it. It wasn't really a patch, but the hotfix that went out.
Yeah,
And that's what
32-1.
I kind of wanted to. This is good we're talking because I wanted to transition into this anyway. Yeah, but yeah, Bruiser's health scaling per level got taken down. I think some other things did as well. I don't have the notes in front of me, but yeah, continuing what you were saying. But go ahead.
I'm not sure if health per level is the stat to hit. I think really what you need to look at is maybe the best way to drop their early game significance is to drop the base damages on spells and drop the base shielding and give it a little bit more scaling. We don't want them to turn into melee AD carries and give them absurd amounts of scaling, but if you really want to get to the root of the problem, I think it might be with those base values of damage skills and shielding skills rather than hitting base stats. Because the fact that I'm not saying this is efficient at all, but if I mean I can take a Vex and build him the same as I build a Basco, and he has more defensive stats than a Basco does, which makes no sense. So I really think that
Except for
their
the-
skills. What's that?
I said, except for the fact that Basco has, a ton of mobility and ability
Yeah,
that gives him
I'm just talking
shield.
about just from like a raw stats point of view.
It's an interesting conundrum because I saw a video from Mac Orange's stream a couple days ago where he got almost literally one shot by a damage bruiser. So the concept of them being potentially able to do more damage with power is a little scary for me. But I do agree that base damages versus base health seems to be one of the things that's most out of whack. And when we're seeing builds like Spinal, I think you started this, but I might be thinking of somebody else. Sorry, somebody started it. But like Prosperity, King of Masks with Duress and stuff, and you're
Oh,
like,
that's Tulse. Don't put that on
oh,
me.
okay, sorry, my bad. So
Blame
I guess
Tulse.
Tulse, right? It's being
He's
tanky,
all about that.
being tanky is so much safer. Um, Playing a glass cannon means you die instantly. Playing with tanky stats means you can make mistakes. I say this every week. That's why bruisers feel OP to me, is because I can watch them do the derpiest things and get away. And if I see an 80 carry with derpy position, he's dead. Like, so to bring that back around to a point, yeah, I think you're right. Base health and base damage is scary.
You want to get rid of. You would rather nerf their damage and stuff, but the point of a bruiser seems to be able to go in, not take as much damage as a tank, but still draw aggro and output some damage, right? So if you nerf their base health, you are essentially letting them go in, do their job, and if they screw up and went in at the wrong time, or screw up and really like take the focus, as much focus as a tank should be taking, basically playing outside of what their archetype should be, then they deserve to die. And that's where nerfing the base health seems like it's a good idea compared to their power, because they still go in, they still do their damage with their abilities, because most bruisers are ability-based bruisers, or some auto attacks, and they don't survive for long enough to take out the whole team, but they don't kill the whole team either. So I don't know. It seems like taking out their base health seems like a better move than taking out their damage. Otherwise, they go in, they don't do tanking as well as a tank does, and so they go in, and if their damage is down, then all of a sudden they're completely dead, and they've done literally nothing other than draw some cooldowns, maybe an ult, maybe two ults, maybe a spell or something, but they didn't have any damage output, so they didn't actually take anybody down like they're supposed to. I don't know. Their mobility is there for a reason. It's to get to the people they need to and try to burst them down, or to draw as much aggro as possible and survive long enough to output a full rotation of abilities and then die. So I mean, that's how I view a bruiser, at least compared to a tank and a damage dealer. But that's just my I guess my bruiser mentality could be polluting that a little as well.
You guys heard what Gasty said on the stream. He wants bruisers to win the 1v1s versus 80
Yeah.
carries.
That's how it's supposed to work. That's the only way it can work, because 80 carries has so much more team fight viability. Like, in a team fight, everybody who's melee automatically is downgraded one step, and anybody who's ranged is upgraded one step.
Well,
so
especially, man, when people hit duress and stuff, and like you're kind of like, maybe I'm going to engage, and you get with like a duress and then a tentacle root. Like, if you don't have the tankiness to survive damage, like let's say you're an underfarmed Salus, for example, someone pops you one of those, and you blink and you're dead. So like it is certainly a scary proposition. Like, everyone's like nerf bruisers, but like you give them too much of a shove in the wrong direction, and they'll just fold like paper, and then you'll never see them again.
I just played an Arab where I had over 400 armor, and I was a Viridian. I had over 400 armor and like 2,400 health. Right? I had 168 power or something like that. Seems like I should be able to duel a single carry. I could not. And so if you nerf the power, the only way to beat a carry, in my opinion, is not to survive, is to kill them faster. The faster you kill them, because if you survive, they deal more damage over time because of things like Duelist, Ravager, Finesse, stuff like that, Ruin. So killing them faster, that's why I don't think that we should be taking down their power. We need to kill, as a bruiser, you need to kill them faster, not survive longer, because you don't survive longer. That extra health is not going to do enough. I think nerfing the power would be a really bad move, but that's just from some of the things that I've seen and how I play, I guess.
I think in general, most people's complaints is that the bruiser time to live within the early to mid game makes it like an insurmountable fight sometimes, especially if they're fed. It's like, I can't feasibly do enough damage. I can't outplay as an 80 carry because I just don't hit hard enough. And I do think it's a reasonable complaint in that dropping their health is going to reduce their time to live, and it's going to make it more feasible for you to kill them in that section of the game. Whereas once they're farmed in on items, that drop in base health isn't going to matter as much. But I don't know if that's exactly what their desires are with the nerfs, or if they're just throwing shit at the bruisers and being like, you're slightly weaker now. Let's see what the community thinks.
Well, the thing is too, you can't nerf bruisers to the point where they're like useless in lane. I mean, if you lane as a bruiser against a double range lane, like, you're gonna eat a ton of a harass. A lot of the times when bruisers feel overpowered or like too influential in a game is when they're coming out of the jungle and just kind of steamrolling. Bruisers feel really bad right now because currently the bruiser jungle is just so influential on how the game is played. And I know Waystone says they're working on a fix for these sorts of things with progression update and all that, but like, until then, it's just kind of the way life is in Dawngate, where it's just the jungle is a very influential role, just in the way that bruisers scale early to mid game when junglers have the most influence. So it's just kind of something we have to deal with at the moment. And I would refrain from doing anything too drastic right now, because you don't want to make it where bruisers are only viable in the jungle either.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I wish that
I love
whole
lane
thing
bruisers.
right
Don't take
there.
that from me.
We should make a VOD out of that because I wish every single Dawngate player heard that point because it takes one person to screw up your jungle. One person on your team or one person on the enemy team to screw up the jungle entirely for you. It happens a lot, at least in gold and platinum.
What do you mean by that, Muzzy? Because I think if you had a chance to watch, the coaching that Zyrule did on Ferris Jungle,
That was a
they
good
took
coach.
they took one of the person he was teaching. They took one of his buffs and they said, okay, now you have to jungle as if you lost one of your buffs,
No,
and
no,
they
no, no,
did
no.
a
It's
comparison.
not about how much money you make in the jungle and how much experience you make in the jungle. It's about taking damage early. The early invades, if you do not come out of the jungle healthy at all unless you're playing
Yeah.
Pasco,
I
and that's the biggest thing I'm saying.
I think you're definitely correct in the sense that if you can figure out in a solo queue environment where the enemy jungler is starting, laying a reasonable amount of harass without getting wrecked is extremely potent. I did have a pretty funny game this weekend. 50 Shades is on my team, and I'm Downsy was the enemy jungler, and I actually managed to steal their buff with a Nissa Q, and then he like got executed by like the next big jungle camp, and like our jungler just snowballed the game really hard. But like I don't think that's common enough of an occurrence that I can just say junglers are weak in the jungle. All you have to do is beat them, because I do feel like a majority of the time that's not possible, because you have to leash for your own jungler, and that junglers are generally on the stronger edge of the who's good right now. I'm level 4, you're level 6 type situation.
What do you think, Cuss? I mean, just in the like bruisers and jungle, it's just kind of like the perfect marriage for influence in the early and the mid game, which is where more games go to early mid game than they go to late game, just by virtue of length of time. So what are your kind of thoughts about just bruisers and jungle and all that?
I don't know if you saw the post I made on Reddit earlier this week about I hope all the hate the jungle role is getting right now doesn't crush it for the progression pack or
Yeah.
patch rather.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope it doesn't, because it really is when subtle little things happen, like the situation that John said about stealing that one buff, it kills you. It does kill you. It's very, very rare, but it does kill you. So if they drop the XP that you get out of the jungle, and that will happen more and more often. And whenever I'm behind in games at very, very high MMR and solo queue, I've got tactician Maras walking up into my buff and saying, "Yo, man, that's my buff," and then you just get pushed away from it. So when you
fair.
get behind in jungle, it's tough. When you get ahead in jungle, it's tough for the enemy. So
Well-
I don't really have any opinion on what Waystone could do to get the balance of it, but it's I don't know. It's touchy. It's hard
Did you play back before Item Palooza? I apologize if this is an obvious question. You obviously did, but back in the day, like small camps used to be worth approximately 0.1 experience points. So
yeah.
if you got your buff stolen, you
It's
were level
over.
4.
GG.
The enemy jungler's level 7, and the laners are like hitting 6. So like if I can just hand wave, it felt like jungle XP and risk was like over here. And then like they changed it Item Palooza where it's like way over here, and I think most people want it in here, so that like
Yeah.
if you get countered early, you're not useless. But if you have your safe average clear where you just clear your entire jungle, nobody wants to see you just being like, oh, I was in my jungle, nothing happened, I'm ahead. Like that feels weird. You should have to counter jungle to get ahead, I think, in my position. So
Gasty responded here. The update doesn't nerf the jungle. Oh, come on. It just changes it systematically so that its progression isn't as spiky, i.e. first 4 minutes are a huge percent of your experience compared to the next 4 minutes.
Well, that's good to hear.
Which reduces the early game problems it has at the moment. Yeah, so that's good. And that means solution. We just have to wait.
Yeah,
Have patience.
and I think when you see an update to jungle coming out, you'll be able to have a much better grasp on bruisers and their power. I mean, they're meant to power spike early, and then when they are getting another power spike because jungle power spikes early, it exacerbates an issue that is
Right.
already out of control. So I think
But
that'll do a lot.
mostly what I was saying before was like if you take damage early in the jungle and somebody finds you at your next buff or the next buff after that, like you're not going to have the health that you need to engage. You're not going to have the health to run to lane and protect. And so there's a lot of damage coming out of the jungle too. Just got to be have that run in. But I tell you what, every time that I group queue with some people who are higher MMR than I do and than I am, and all of a sudden we're in these games, it's like you got 4 people at the camp that I just happened to be at, and I take 3 hits, and it's downhill from there. It's so hard to come back from health reasons. That's why you play Moya, Muzzy. God, no, I don't play Moya.
That's one thing I wanted to ask Gasty if he was still in the chat. If they plan on regulating the health pools of some of the junglers in some way, shape, or form, because like it really is, it's nice to play Basco and Moya. It feels amazing. You get to come out of the jungle using, 1, 2, 3 health pots, whatever you might have needed to use, and you're healthy and you're able to gank or you're able to counter jungle or you're able to go and attack a well. But with Salas, if you want to perform that full clear, you're going back right after it. There's nothing for you. You're not going to do anything. I want to know, what if there's going to be some sort of regulation for the health pools for different junglers.
Because let me ask you this: do you want a homogenization of
Oh, absolutely
all junglers?
No,
Because I think Salas has some redeeming qualities. I think his skanks
yeah, he
are.
does. Yeah, you should never.
Kinda-
I'm not warranting a full clear on Salas. You shouldn't ever try and do that. But I was just wondering if that was a thing that might be coming.
Don't
Not
you
that I
feel like
wanted it
there
to
should
come.
be again, my jungle naivety is going to be showing here, and I hope the chat doesn't roast me, but shouldn't there be a certain loadout or starting item that you could build so that you could play Salas as a full clear jungler without issue? Whereas like it just feels like his options are going to be extremely limited if you're saying these shapers can do this or that, but Salas can only do that. So it feels a little limiting to me.
Gasty says, real quick, guys. Gasty says, "Yep, that is why Basco's jungle health was so overtuned when on live when he came out. He was tuned for the internal update where everyone's jungle health is much healthier, so Basco wasn't as far out of line. So that's things to come."
And I had a feeling about that too, just in the sense because remember when Mara came out and she was garbage because she was tested internally on Item Palooza. So when we got her on live and we didn't have Item Palooza, she felt really underwhelming. So
yeah,
I had a feeling that might have been that's maybe why we saw Basco come out in a state that was so, kind of absurd as far as like jungle health and all that. So I'm not surprised to hear that sort of thing.
Yeah, I hope they take extra caution with Shaper X, whoever's coming out a week from. I guess it'd be a week from today. I hope they take a little bit of extra time this time to like really test it on the live environment because I know everybody's really excited over the progression update, but we still have to play this patch for the next month and a bit, or 2 or 3, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't like
if they could just throw a Band-Aid on it, you know what I mean? Like it would be better than nothing.
Right. Yeah.
I think people also overreact, and also there's a lot of other things that make Basco seem more overpowered.
Yeah, he's
than
hard to outplay.
I think Mina. I will stand by this. I think Mina on her release was way more overpowered than Basco was on release, and she got no flack for weeks. For weeks, no flack.
That 5 damage to the Q.
No, I was so mad. I was streaming the weekend before she got that stupid nerf, and I was like, the entire time I was like, doesn't matter. These games don't matter. Mina's getting nerfed on Monday, and then they're like 5 damage. I was like, all right, okay. All right. Yeah, I do feel like Mina was a bit of a failure in terms of balance speed. Like they kind of were way too slow on her, but I think they hit Basco hard and fast, so I'm happy.
And he likes it that way.
Okay, so kind of moving on, wrapping up. Bib is postponed this week because I'm not going to be around this weekend. But we'll probably do it next week, so keep your eyes open for that. So 2 weeks. Sorry for the delay, but we're gonna go another. I won't be around this week, but so we'll do it the week after. Other than that, are there any pressing announcements? Oh, Basco Guide.
Oh yeah, I
Guide
think I
contest.
think hopefully everybody in our group has reported back their votes, so we'll get the winners posted up on the site after the what do we do podcast after that. The big change though is that Waystone basically told us that upcoming prizes now are going to be served directly hot from the collection instead of being waypoints. So if you're one of the winners, check your private messages on the site, and we'll ask you what content you would like to unlock.
That's pretty cool. It's like a little magical wizard is just granting you things via the collection.
Yeah, there's been some less than positive feedback on it so far, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, even better. I like when things go smoothly. Other than that, do you guys have any like Cus? Do you have anything you wanted to bring up? I mean, this is your open forum now, and chat too. If you have any questions for Kusqt or any of us, now's your time to ask your questions. We'll do our best to answer them.
Nope. I'm just content being here. I
No.
appreciate you asking.
Well, we thank you for coming on. I'm not even bullshitting. Like, when Kusqt posts one of his Bibles on Reddit, I make a point to read it because I think he always has very reasonable, very, very sound look at everything. You're not as knee-jerky as some of the other people in the community, and I appreciate that. I think you bring good insight, so continue with the good work, sir.
Thanks.
No, Tulse, can't help you pick up the Doritos, bro.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly echo what Twerp said. Your posts always come from a rational perspective, and as a
In
sane
the land
person,
of irrational people.
as a
God
sane
bless.
person, I appreciate that a lot. I like being able to see the positive side, or at least the objective side of every discussion. which
Like,
makes
you were
me
one of the
happy.
first people to do, when you did your post when Basco came out, and you're like, listen, I played him one game, but I kind of have a good understanding on how this works. I'm like, first of all, it takes a lot of balls to just say I played one game, but then it's like, Kusqt does jungle, like all of it, so like, I trusted your opinion, and when you're like, yeah, Moya's still better than Basco, I'm like, thank you.
I try and be controversial, but you know,
I respect that. I feel you.
Well, you got to
keep
shake it up a
at
little
the same
bit.
time. Yeah.
Do you want
I
to
think
talk
a
a
lot
little
of-
bit about the state of Basco as far as your concern, as your perspective as a jungler and as a drafter? Because that seems to be some of the questions in chat.
Yeah, I guess I can't get downvoted on Twitch.
Oh.
I honestly feel are we talking about a competitive perspective, Spinal, or from like a solo queue perspective?
Go ahead and just explain how those are different.
In a competitive perspective, Basco should, I feel, be 100% picked and banned.
Damn.
I don't feel
Strong
like he
words.
needs to be first picked like a lot of teams were doing. They were dropping a lot of really, really strong picks just to make sure that the other team didn't pick up a Basco. I don't think I don't think he warrants a first pick, but I do think he should be picked and banned every game right now, which could throw up a red flag, and I'm sure it does. But I 100% think he should be picked or banned 100%.
So then, what do you have to say about the Basco that we picked and got stomped on in the lane?
Lane Basco? I don't even remember what the lane matchup was. What was the lane matchup?
That was
It
the
was
Viana
Viana
Dibs
Dibs.
Shield Gate.
God bless. I don't know.
Well, you can go back and watch it. I have the whole thing on
Yeah,
record.
I watched them. I couldn't recall. It's so
it's-
late
it-
right now. I'm so sleepy, so I
It's-
couldn't remember it. But
It's one of my favorite strawmans to like be in a game that Basco's in and he's losing. I'll be like, there he is, perfectly balanced, losing the game. Like, obviously, like single games aren't indicative of the greater scheme of things, and I would not be shocked if there was more Basco buffs, nerfs next week. I feel like the community's ready.
as
Yeah, I
far
feel
as
like his slow should be taken off his W, but his W should actually give him some shields because it doesn't.
I never understood why his W needed a slow anyway. With a shaper with that much mobility, you needed to
You don't
throw
need
a
a
slow
slow.
on him too. Like really,
Yeah.
he has trouble sticking to people. Like I have a harder time sticking to people on Viridian. You know what I mean? Like
Radiant's not very sticky.
he's not.
He's
Yeah,
not.
I
It's
feel
just
like,
stabby.
Yeah, he's
Very
more
stabby, not very sticky.
Woo! That's my one for the day.
I liked it. There was a question in here I saw before. No, I can't find it. Everyone's asking Gasty questions. No one wants to
I
ask
know.
us anything.
God
Guys are
bless.
jerks.
We kick him off the show, he still finds a way to come back
I
and
know.
steal his spot.
Stealing all the thunder. As soon as Gasty started talking, like the viewer count shot up like 15. By the way, I don't know how he does it. All right. Well, I think that's gonna be it then.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for all hanging out tonight and joining us for episode 58 of the Money Pigs Livecast. You can follow all of us on Cuss. You don't stream, do you, with your potato internet?
no,
No.
I don't stream.
All right.
Why you gotta be so rude?
Well, he was the one like telling me all week. He's like, dude, I don't know if my internet's gonna hold up. I don't know. I'm like, whatever. We'll just get audio only, if anything. And then like I took it. I'm like, it's fine. I'm like, look, Spinal like did the one show with us just as one giant pixel that was an eyebrow. Like, I think we could work it.
No entertainment
Why?
style.
Other than that, thank you guys again for watching the Money Pigs Livecast. Yeah, do all the follows on all the things. Check out the draft tool on Dawn Scout. Check out the winners of the Basco Guide contest on the MOBA Champion website. Soon after this post goes down or this show stops and John can actually finish it. Other than that, thank you guys very much. Everyone say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.